Hey, hello everyone, my name is Kevin Grigley from Tech Formality, the blog that focuses on technology news, guides, and reviews. In today's video we're going to touch on a topic that some of you may already be familiar with, however some of you may not, and that is going to be virtual desktops in Windows 10. So if you stick around for just a minute, we will go ahead and get right into it. Alright, so let's go ahead and get started. So some of you may ask, what is a Windows 10 virtual desktop? A few builds back, Windows actually added the feature, the virtual desktop, as a built-in feature, and it comes now with any future updates or builds of Windows 10. Basically, it's an organization unit that allows you to virtually manage your desktops in a organized fashion. So for example, if you have 10 windows open on one screen, you can actually make 4 or 5 virtual desktops and make those easily accessible. So that could be used for apps, windows, music, anything you might be doing during the day, just to easily get to each of your screens in a very easy way. So there are shortcut keys for all of these, and we are going to actually go ahead and get into how to use it first, and then I will go ahead and touch on the shortcut keys on how to access everything. So now if you are on your desktop here of Windows 10, you will look down here at the bottom and you will see a button here next to Cortana if you have it enabled. If not, then it is right down here in the task bar, and it is called Task View. If you go ahead and click on that button, it actually brings up a screen here and shows you everything. Now if I had actually had opened documents before, it would actually show that, but since this is a virtual machine, it will go ahead and nothing will be listed on there. So we'll just open a few windows here just so you can see what I'm talking about. We'll go back to that task view screen, and now you can see these are the 2 windows that I have opened. Now there is going to be a timeline down below as well, so if you opened something 2 weeks ago, it would actually show that there, and it basically lays out what you have had open in the past and easily accessible from this screen. So now if you do want to add a second desktop, all you would have to do is click on that task view button on the taskbar down below, and once you get to this screen, all you do is simply click New Desktop. And it's as simple as that. So now if you look at the top, you can see we have desktop 1 and desktop 2. So now if we go back to desktop 1, the windows are opened that we had opened previously. If we go back into the task view, if we click on desktop 2, you can actually see that there are no windows open on this new desktop. So we will go ahead and open a few windows on this desktop so you can see the difference between the 2 desktops. So on this screen we have Microsoft Edge opened, as well as the recycling bin. And if you go ahead and go back to the task view screen on the bottom, and you will now see that those 2 windows are open on desktop 2. If we want a blank desktop again, we would go ahead and hit New Desktop, and you can see here this is another blank desktop. So you can actually add as many as you want. You can add all the way up to 20 if you wanted to. There are no restrictions. To close out a virtual desktop, you would just click this X next to each desktop individually. And for example, on this screen, these windows are still open, and that actually shows you on each desktop, once you click on each one and go back into task view, it shows you what items are opened on that specific desktop. So now if we go over to desktop 2 and click task view again, you can see the 2 windows that are open on that desktop. So with that being said, there are a few advantages to using this. Basically the first one is organization. So if you actually have a window here on one desktop and you wanted to move it to a second one or a new desktop, you just left click and drag the window and move it up. You can either move it to a new desktop or you can move it to a different screen. So if we wanted to move the recycling bin here to desktop 1, you just click and hold and drop it on desktop 1. And now if you go to desktop 1, you'll see that the recycling bin is now on desktop 1 and no longer on desktop number 2. So now in the case that, and if you actually hover over these, it will tell you which windows are on each. So if you wanted to see what you had open on this screen or this screen, you just hover over and it would come up like this. So now in the case that we have a window open on this desktop number 2, and we go ahead and click the X here to close that, you will now see that all items are on desktop number 1. So if we had, we'll just do this for an example, we will go and make another desktop and have 3, and we will move this window to this one. So it will actually move the screens as you close them to the left. So desktop number 2, for example, if we close this, you'll see that that file of Explorer that was on 2 is now on 1. And it will just keep on moving to the left. So if you do accidentally close out of a desktop, it will not close out of all your windows, but instead it will conceal it to one desktop only. So now a few different features. Like I said, you can actually click and hold and drag these. If you wanted to add this to a new desktop, you can go and do that. And you will see here that you have now this on this specific desktop. And you can go over and just basically it's an organization feature that allows you to have multiple windows up at once without having numerous monitors. So that is basically the functionality of this, and it is very useful if you do not have more than one monitor. I know that a lot of people usually have dual monitors to have separate things up at once. However, you can actually have more than one monitor up at once, just not visibly seeing them at once. So you can be working on something here and then jump back over to your desktop 2 or 3, depending on which desktop you're working on. So now the difference between a virtual desktop and a virtual machine is that a virtual machine is a completely separate entity of your computer. So virtual machine requires additional software to install a separate operating system than the one that your computer is currently running, and it has its own virtual hard drive, virtual hardware and software established with it. And the virtual desktop is just a feature that is built into Windows, so it's a flat line across, so now it looks like separate desktops. It actually is only one desktop overall. And as you close those out, as I said, they actually do go back to the main screen here. So that is basically the features, and we're going to go ahead and pause here for a second, and I will go ahead and go over the shortcut keys, which will help you out if you do want to use this feature. So we will be back in 1 second. Alright, so let's go ahead and jump into the virtual desktop shortcuts. So there are about 4 different shortcuts that you can use in order to use this properly and easily. So from your desktop, or from anywhere within the operating system of Windows 10, you basically push on the Windows key and then push on the tab button. So that Windows key and tab button will actually open up the task view that you clicked on here in your taskbar previously, and it will actually show everything that we just saw before. Now if we go back to our main desktop and push Windows key, Control, and D, this will automatically create a new virtual desktop. So now if we hit the Windows key and tab again, you will now see that there's 2 desktops created, and this was the one we just created, and this is the main desktop that we had created before. So for this example, we will move the Mail app over to desktop 2 and go back to desktop 1. And for the next shortcut key, if you hold Windows key, Control, and left or right arrows, so in this case we'll do it to the desktop number 2, we'll push the right arrow, that will move to your next desktop screen. So if you are on this screen and push Control, Windows key, and left, you'll go back to desktop number 1. So it's just simultaneously, depending on which screen you're on. And if you actually are all the way on the left, you would just have to push the Control and Windows key again and push the right button, as it doesn't go through an endless loop. It goes in a numeric order. So if we are on desktop 1, you can go ahead and go to desktop 2. You can't go back to desktop 2 from 1 from the left side. You have to go to the right side. And the next key is Control, Windows, and F4, which will actually close a virtual desktop screen. So we will go ahead and push Control, Windows key, and D to create a new desktop here. From this menu, we will actually push Control, Windows, and F4, and that will actually close out of that desktop. So to recap, if we push the Windows key and tab, that will bring up the task view overview, the task view from Microsoft down in the taskbar, and you will see all of your virtual desktops here, and you will have the ability to do this as well without using the shortcut keys. But once you memorize the shortcut keys, it makes it very much easier to manage, and it's a lot quicker. So we have the 2 desktops here, If we go to desktop 1, to switch to the next desktop, you would put, or actually we would go back in the order that we already went in. So we will create a new desktop. Windows key Control D creates a new desktop. Windows key Control Left goes to the previous desktop. Windows key and Control and Right goes to the desktop in the next order. So if we push Control and Windows key and left arrow once, left arrow twice, we will be on desktop 1. And then to close out of a virtual desktop, we're going to go back to the first one, or the last one we just created. It is Control, Windows key, F4, and we will go ahead and push out again, Control, Windows key, F4. Now we have one desktop opened, and as you can see, the mail window now makes its way back to the main desktop, so you don't accidentally close anything out that you were working on. And if we push Windows key Tab, you will see now we have all 3 windows opened up on the same virtual desktop. That basically is the virtual desktops in a nutshell. If you have any questions in regards to this or any other questions, feel free to send me a private message or go to the website techformality.com and access the contact me button at the top right. And as soon as I get your submission, I will try to respond in a quickly time manner. And that's all for now, so please be sure to like, comment, and subscribe, and we will be bringing you additional videos on tech guides, tech news, and tech reviews. And that's all for now, and thank you for watching. This is Kevin Gergley from Tech Formality.